And in the moment, I'm like, this is crazy. Like this is really trying our marriage, you know?
Yeah.
But now looking back, we're like, thank God we did go through that.
Yeah.
Because we can see now like why we went through what we went through.
There's moments where I just expect Hunter to.
Yeah, I'm like, you should know that this is what I needed.
Exactly.
Like, what are you doing?
And then I just get an attitude. And then I'm like, poor guy.
Right.
Poor thing.
I know.
He deserves better.
Someone posted a TikTok. She was doing something for the homeless or something, and everyone was like eating her up because she took a video of it. She influences me to buy makeup, so why can't she influence me to go out and help and do something sweet for someone else, you know?
Because that's so true. Welcome back to the Salty Podcast. Today I'm here with a very good friend that I've met online. This is Savannah Jean Alexander.
The full name.
I have to say the full name.
I get it.
If y'all might know her and her husband, they are on TikTok, YouTube, all the socials. And I said Savannah Jean Alexander because they do these cute interviews, and it's always introduce yourself.
My full name.
Savannah
I know.
Jean Alexander.
People really refer to me as like my entire name, and it's so funny.
When they meet you in person?
Sometimes they'll be like, "Are you Savannah Jean Alexander?" I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, I guess I set myself up to be like referred to that way, so it's fine.
I love it though. Do you typically go by Sav or Savannah?
I go by Savannah. Like if I introduce myself to someone, I'll be like, "Hi, I'm Savannah." But I think since like Josh and I started doing social media and we're like Josh and Sav, that a lot of people call me Sav. But either way, I like either or. Whatever.
Well, even before y'all came, I only know y'all as Josh and Sav. Yeah. And so even saying Savannah, like last night I was going to call your name and I was like, which one do I say?
Yeah.
Savannah sounds weird because I call her Sav.
Right. Yeah, no, either one.
I'm so glad y'all are here today.
I know.
Staying the weekend with us. We're actually going to be on their podcast too.
Yes.
What's y'all's podcast called?
It's called For Us.
For Us, which I
with
love.
Josh and Sav, yeah.
Do y'all do that because it's for your memories?
It's kind of like everything that we share is like experiences and like moments in our life that has been maybe like teachable to us. So it's like for us, but then it's also, we say like the podcast for you and for us.
Okay, that is so cute.
So it's fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, y'all, they are literally so genuine, so sweet. Whenever I ran across their videos, it's been a few months now, and we somehow got messaging. And you know, we even talked about this last night. Sometimes you can just discern when it's a good friendship.
For
and
sure.
I don't know, we just clicked.
Yeah.
And y'all live across the world.
And we
not
flew
across
here.
the world, but across the
Across the
would you
world.
say across the globe?
Across the
We're both
across the country. Across the country. Yes.
We're both geographically.
We're not the best at geography. Yes.
Anyway, so okay, tell where y'all flew from.
Yes, we flew. We flew from Portland, Oregon. So that's like, it's actually a 2-hour time difference, but it's all the way across.
All the way.
Yes. Because you guys, well, see the geography. You guys are almost like, we flew into Florida, so kind of near.
Because we live near the Florida line, and then from the beach, it's like an hour and a half. So
okay, so we're almost like as far as we could be from each other across.
No, for real.
I mean, not the globe, the country.
Okay, so tell about where you grew up.
Yes. So I grew up in Portland, like Portland area, Oregon, and then I lived there like all of my childhood, and then after I graduated high school, I moved to LA.
Okay.
And that's where Josh and I met.
By yourself?
Actually, my mom moved with me. She retired from her job and moved to LA to support me in my career.
Well, that's
so I moved there for dance. Yeah. So she like moved there to kind of like get me on my feet and like financially support me so I could like pursue my dreams.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was the biggest blessing. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it without her, truly. So yeah, I did that. And then that's where Josh and I met in LA. Okay. And then I lived in LA for like 7 years, and then we kind of jumped around. We lived in Texas for a short time, and then we lived in Michigan, and now we're back in like my hometown after like 10 years of not living there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a crazy thing how like God orchestrated all of
the
things, and now we live in my hometown.
And
I'm like, how did this happen?
2 kids.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a full circle moment.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to move away as like, I feel like I was still a child. I was 18, and then now being an adult and experiencing almost all of my adult years not living there, and then moving back now with a husband and 2 kids. It's like so crazy.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So in LA, y'all met Josh. So you were a dancer, and Josh was a videographer at that point.
Yeah.
So he was just videoing.
Yes,
and
we
you
met.
saw a cute girl.
Yes, yep. That's literally like, long story short, we met in a dance class. Like I was taking a dance class. It was just a random day for me, like training. and then he was working, and we didn't like talk in the class. He messaged me on Instagram, and then here we are.
Wow.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit about, because isn't Josh a pastor?
His dad's a pastor, so he grew up in church, and then he's worked in ministry too.
Right. Okay.
In full-time ministry up until like I'd say the past 5 months he's like not working in ministry currently. But we kind of feel like with like our platform, we feel like the Lord has called us, and we feel like it's ministry.
For sure. It's such a ministry.
In its own way, you know?
It is.
But yeah, so he grew up in church. I didn't grow up in church.
Okay.
So a lot of like my testimony, honestly, I always like kind of believed, I was telling you last night, like I believed in God, I thought, but I didn't really know what all that like entailed. And then meeting Josh and seeing his like faith and his faith journey, he really just like lit a new fire in me. And I was like, okay, I want to know more about this. Like I want to know what's going on here, because something just feels right when I'm like at church or, you know. So yeah, long story short, he kind of propelled my faith journey, and then I ended up getting baptized in 2018. And then yeah, from there we got engaged, married, all the things. Aww. But yeah, it's really cool because I think meeting Josh, like it not only started like my faith journey, but then also my mom's as well.
Oh wow, really?
So yeah, she came to like visit us and came to church with us. And then she was like, I want to find a church like near me. And then she since has given her life to the Lord. And she like got baptized. And so it's like a really beautiful thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That just makes me think of, I mean, that is what discipleship is. And if we can, how we talk about this as our ministry, and if like we can affect one person, it's like they know, not even by your words, but literally by your fruit, the fruits of the Spirit. And you can tell something's different about them. Like you did with Josh. You're like, okay, something's different about him. Like, I want to know more.
It's so true. Yeah. Like literally something as simple of just like the joy of the Lord, like it's like on him. Like I just remember being like, why is he so patient and kind and like not stressed and like doesn't seem to worry, like just little things like that. And not to say that like as Christians, we don't worry or stress at times, obviously. But I was like, there's something different going on here. Like what's going on?
Yeah. So that's kind of when it started your spiritual journey. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's dive in a little bit on your faith journey. So you met him. Yes. You were like, something's different about him. Yeah. Started going to church. And then from there, like, what was the process like?
Yeah. I think like meeting Josh, I was kind of immediately immersed into it because he was super plugged in at his church, kind of like, just serving, just really plugged in. He was doing like actually a leadership, like college program at the time. And so it was just like instant. I was like, the first time we met actually was his church was breaking a fast. And so I was like, I don't know what's going on, really. But I'm like, this is great. Like, I'm like, breaking a fast, what's a fast? Like, I don't know what's happening. But, so yeah, I feel like I just kind of like immediately jumped in. And then I like, over time was like, okay, I want to know more, like, you know, like baptisms, all this stuff. Like, what does this actually mean? And like, what does this mean to me? Because it wasn't new to me to hear about Jesus and like believe, but it was more so like creating the relationship and like, how do I pray? How do I actually form a relationship with God? Because I think there's such a difference than just to be like going to church. Maybe I read my Bible here and there. I believe in God. Like I believe in this stuff, but like, do I actually have a relationship with him? Yeah. And I think Josh helped me with that a lot, which was really cool. But there was also moments in our relationship, like in the early dating days where we kind of had to like check each other, and like he would be like, this is what like the foundation of our relationship needs to be. And it's not going to work if we don't have like Jesus at the center of it all. And so I think in the beginning it like was tough for us because I was traveling a lot. I was like dancing at the time. And so I was traveling a lot. He was traveling a lot. And just to like keep what like the main thing and like what the priorities of our relationship and like of just both of our faith journeys, like as individuals, but then also together. It was definitely tough at times, but yeah, I mean, I feel like truly like the Lord brought us together. And we say it all the time because like we both weren't looking for a serious relationship. But it was really cool because we wanted to make it a priority to like form a friendship first before a dating relationship. But I do feel like it was like an instant kind of connection. So it was kind of hard to be like, oh, we're just like, let's be friends first, you know?
Yeah.
But it was really cool because right after we met, cool and hard. Right after we met, like literally 3 weeks after we met, I actually went on tour. So
y'all had to do long distance.
Yeah,
Or,
and
were y'all dating then? Or
well, we
it's
had
like you
yes
mutually
and no.
knew.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we like liked each other, but we weren't like, we had barely just met like a month ago. So we hadn't like said like, oh, we're boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, but it was like, we knew we both liked each other, whatever. And I went to Europe on the tour.
Oh,
So it
wow.
was like
Very long distance.
3 months. And then we were on totally different time zones.
Yeah.
Like our texts were green. Like it was so hard to communicate, like the
gosh.
whole thing. So that really, it was great. Like, because the only thing we could do was get to know each other because we could only talk. Like we couldn't see each other in person. We couldn't go do fun like activities or dates. We could just only talk to each other.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. It was like, but that also like tested us and our faith and our relationship.
That's
and
what
trying to make a relationship. So,
for sure. That's what I was going to ask, is that time apart, if it just made you be like, okay, wait, I think I really like him. I want to be with him. Like he's somebody I can see marrying.
Yeah.
Like how quickly did it get serious?
I feel like after I got back from Europe, we kind of both knew because we were like, we talked every single day when I was gone. And we were like, okay, I think like this might be something.
Oh,
So from there, I think things kind of got more serious. We like then met each other's families like shortly after that. And yeah, I think it got serious when I got back because we were like, okay, we talked every single day. I feel like something's happening here.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So timeline from that to getting engaged to married, what was that? What did that look like?
Yes. So we met in 2017 and then we got engaged in 2018, like April 2018. And then we got married October 2019. But we actually, it's kind of crazy. So we did long distance again. Josh, he got a job in ministry in South Carolina. And then he moved away for a year.
Oh my
So
gosh.
this was, we had already been doing long distance like on and off with like touring and dance and like all of that stuff. And then he actually moved away for a whole year.
Wow.
And that was actually like half of it we were dating, half of it we were engaged.
Okay.
So he moved back like right before we got married.
Yeah.
Moved back to LA.
Wow. I bet that definitely.
That was like the hardest season of our relationship for sure. Like actually being like, because, you know, the long distance that we had done here and there was, we knew it was short term. Like I would be gone for like 2 months or 3 months. And then same, like he would tour too for like music or film or whatever. But then we knew like we were going to see each other again, like after. It's just like short term. But knowing that he actually fully lived somewhere else, I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
This is really hard.
So now, and y'all are together every day, all day. How going from the long distance to being together, did that just make you more grateful for
Oh, for sure.
being together all the time?
It's like our first year of marriage. We got the advice that like the first year of marriage is really tough.
I got that too.
And we had our first year of marriage was like amazing.
Same.
Like it was the best. I mean, we got married in 2019 and then the pandemic hit in 2020, like shortly after.
Oh my gosh.
So, but we had a blast.
Yeah.
Like we were like in our little tiny 1-bedroom apartment in
Bunked
LA
in.
and we loved it. Like we
Yeah.
really had fun. I mean, we didn't love like what was happening in the world, obviously,
Right.
but like we just had we had a great first year of marriage. But yeah, we really were so grateful for that time that now we're like, wait, we get to live together.
Oh,
Like this is so cool. Like I just remember feeling like it was like a dream that we got to live together and be together in the same state and stuff. So
That's
it was really cool.
sweet.
Yeah.
And that is, going back to that, I remember getting that advice too. But now I have had friends who say their first year was very tough.
Yeah.
And it was hard. And I'm so grateful that our first year was not. So whenever people would tell me that, I'm like, wait, what?
I know, I'm
Ours
like,
was the greatest.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But, you know, I think
everyone's different.
It's so different. And I mean, I feel like it could be very trying at times too, if I guess the timeline or whatever.
Yeah.
But like with me and Hunter, we had gone through so many trials before we got married. And so it's like we kind of hashed a lot out.
Yeah.
You
You kind
know?
of feel like you already like covered some of the
Yes.
stuff that you would have like in the first
Right.
year. Yeah.
What was one of the biggest struggles going into like y'all's relationship or marriage?
I would say the long distance was like really like a really big struggle, and just like communication. I know it's like, I feel like it's so cliche, and like I feel like everyone says like how important communication is in a relationship, but we really learned that, and we kind of learned it the hard way when we had to do long distance, and we were not able to communicate. And we learned, we were like, oh, okay, yeah, if we don't say what we actually mean, the other person can't just read our minds. And I think we both were the same way, which didn't help because we're both like stubborn. And then we're both just expecting that the other person knows what we're feeling. Yeah. And so that was really hard for us. And then just trusting each other too. I think from like our past relationships or just like life, we had both had kind of issues trusting each other and just not knowing what the other person was doing, not thinking, you know, they're doing something crazy, but just learning little things like, you know, Josh would like not text me back for like hours. And I'm like, what do you like? Just tell me what you're doing. You don't have to text me. You couldn't
be in person.
Yeah,
so
I'm like, you don't have to text me every second, but just like be like, hey, like I'm gonna be busy for the next 5 hours. Like I'll talk. But it's just like all of a sudden he's just like ghosts me, and I'm like, bruh.
Oh no.
But just like little things like that. But then I feel like honestly, so our first year of marriage was like amazing. You know, of course, there's like moments here and there, but I think the biggest like tribulation that we've like faced in our marriage is actually when we had our first daughter, Rye. Yeah. Like, and when I experienced what I experienced postpartum.
Yeah.
And just like learning how to navigate that. I really struggled, I was telling you, with postpartum like depression and anxiety. And neither of us really knew how to navigate it.
Yeah.
And didn't really know what was happening. And so to learn how to navigate that was definitely the hardest thing that like we've been through in our marriage for sure. You may think like the person that's experiencing like the depression or the anxiety may be the only one that's like affected. You know what I mean? But your spouse, especially, like they're directly affected by it, whether they're feeling sad or feeling anxious, you know, they are just naturally because like their spouse is going through that. So that was, I feel like, the hardest kind of moment in our marriage so far. Yeah.
Yeah. That's with Hunter and I too. We talked about on a previous episode how me and him really didn't hit bumps in the road until postpartum.
Yeah.
Because I also walked through postpartum depression, and it was tough on him to like navigate it. And they almost have to figure out, okay, if people haven't walked through it, it can be, or even just in life, depression in general or anxiety. Like Hunter will even say he used to be like, okay, just in his mindset would be like, well, just get over it. Not to me, but in general. And so then whenever seeing me walk through it firsthand, he had to learn like, okay, this is real. I need to, how can I apply grace to it? How can I, you know, and then in the same sense, they are being affected too.
Right.
And so it was hard, but thank Jesus we're past that season.
Yeah.
Do you want to like dive in a little bit about that? Like how did that affect your faith in that time?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like if during my like postpartum, everything that I walked through, I feel like if I didn't have like my relationship with the Lord to lean on, it would have been like far worse. But then also it wasn't perfect either. Like there were moments where I was like, God, like, why is it like this? Like, you know, I just experienced like the miracle of childbirth and bringing our first daughter into the world. And like, this is supposed to be the happiest time of our lives. And I'm like, it's opposite for me. And so it was super, super tough, I think, obviously on our marriage and like on me. But I think at moments I was like, God, like, why would you do this to me? You know? But then, you know, I think just like relying on him, and especially then with our second, a lot of people were like trying to not like place fear on me, but like even like my midwife was like, are you prepared? Like all this stuff. Cause you know, they know what I walked through the first time. And I'm like, honestly, yes. And I'm like, but I had no fear. I just like prayed over it. And I was like, Lord, I cannot experience what I experienced the first time. Like, please just, you know, that was like my biggest prayer with our second.
And how was it after your second?
It was a night and day experience. And like, thank God, you know, that it's not like that for everyone. Yeah. I think it's so normal that women experience the postpartum depression or anxiety or whatever it is. And I didn't really know that it was such a normal thing until it happened to me. And I didn't even really know like that there was anything wrong until I was like, wait, like.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At first I was like, I'm kind of sad. Like, you know, they talk about like baby blues and like your hormones are like crazy. So I didn't really know at first. And then it got to a point where I was like, okay, yeah, something's definitely, you know, like it's more serious than just like my hormones and stuff like that. Like I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to like leave the house. I didn't want to eat, like just things like that. And so.
Did it take somebody else like calling that out of you, or did you like be like, okay, something's definitely different?
I think I eventually, I told Josh, I was like, I like need to talk to someone. Like I'm like not okay. Like I'm not myself at all. And he recognized that too. But I think I recognized it, but it also helped to know that like my family and like Josh and like everyone around me could see it too. And they knew, cause then they were able to support me in that way and like get me the help I needed. Like whether it was like through therapy or just like having support from family, whatever it was. But, yeah, it was a crazy time for sure.
Yeah. It's hard. It's so hard. And like even being past that and then seeing new moms, just like somebody posted on social media just that she's sad. And I'm just like, oh, I just pray immediately because that it was such a hard season.
Yeah.
And then, you know, because we know how special it is to have that relationship with Jesus. And even though there's times for that. Like I feel like looking back, it was hard for me to connect with God during that time because I just had no desire, honestly. And it was almost anything. Right. Yeah. And then you kind of put the blame. You're like, why this? Like
Why'd you do this to me?
It's biblical. Like we're supposed to be fruitful and multiply. And
yeah. And now I feel like this.
Yes. Yeah. But I think God is so gracious, and He was there the whole time through it, and just sitting with us and in that. And I am so glad that it's being more normalized to talk about it though. Definitely. Because I feel like even with anxiety medication, because I know we talked about, we both got on it.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I've felt so guilty just because people are like, you have to give all your anxiety to God.
Yeah.
All your anxiety. And I'm like, I know that. Like,
yeah.
And I am as much as
my you're doing as much as you can.
But, you know, I finally had a piece from Him. And He's like, it's okay. Like, I created this. I'm the creator.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so that really helped. How long would you say your journey of postpartum depression lasted?
I would say about like when Rye was like 6 months, it kind of like turned around. It's like started like a kind of a slow gradual. I was like starting to wake up and like feel more like myself. But yeah, so I mean, you know, I feel grateful because I know that for some people it can even be longer than that. But yeah, I have such a heart now for like new moms, like you were saying. And anytime like someone around me has a baby, I'm like, how can I support you? Yeah. And like, I know what I personally needed. And so I always just try to like help my friends and like deliver them food, coffee, whatever. Just like little gestures like that. Cause I just never want someone else to like walk through what I walked through. But yeah, I think it's so beautiful, like how everything was orchestrated, because as hard as it was for me, it not only made me so much stronger and our marriage so much stronger. Like Josh and I, we got so much closer. Like, and in the moment, I'm like, this is crazy. Like this is really trying our marriage, you know? Yeah. And, but now looking back, we're like, thank God we did go through that because we can see now like why we went through what we went through.
That's good.
And it's like so hard when you're in it. But then once you get to the other side, I always, like I had a friend that she just had a baby recently, and she's kind of like, you know, like my husband and I like were like upset with each other all the time. And I was like, girl, I'm like, it's so normal. You're not the only one. Like if you're just not the only one. I'm like, you have no idea. Like I experience all of that stuff too. And so many people do. Yeah. And so, yeah.
It feels good to know you're not alone in that.
For sure.
And then I do love that too, because it takes you getting out of the valley. It's like you're walking through a dark valley, and then you can finally see the light, and you're out and you look back and you can see how like God had His hand on you through all of that. And you're like, okay, I made it.
Yeah.
You know, but it does take, I mean, that produces like perseverance. And Romans 5:3-5. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character. Character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who's been given to us.
Yeah.
God never promised that we're not going to suffer. We live in a fallen, broken world. So I wish we didn't. And one day we're going to experience that. We're going to be able to experience Him and His glory and all of that. But being here, going through like suffering and stuff like that, it really does change you. And for the better if you allow it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I could easily allow all the suffering things to make me, I guess, become victim to it, and then just reap the disadvantages of living in that.
No, for sure.
Bitterness, anger, all of that.
Yeah. And even like when we were talking about having another, like after I walked through all of that, we were like, can we have like another child? Like, of course, like instant, I'm like, this is scary to think about. You know, I did have fear, and it wasn't just as easy as like being like, okay, Lord, like just praying and being like, okay, we're going to be fine. Like it was definitely a journey of like every day being like, you know, I can do this again. And like, just because this happened to me one time doesn't mean that I'm going to walk through it again. And, but that was definitely a conversation that was like kind of hard for us because, and especially for Josh, because he saw like how hard it was on me. He's like, I don't want you to go through that again. But then we got to a place where now we have another, and like it's been such like a better experience.
Yeah.
So.
And like, cause for me, and like hearing you say that, it encourages me because that was for the longest time while we were like, we're only going to be one and done because of just the painful process it was like in the beginning. And I felt guilty because I'm like, I have a new baby. I'm not a good mom because I feel this way. And so, and then Hunter's side being like, well, that was terrible. Like, I don't want, yeah. And so that's encouraging to hear that it was okay. Like you got to a place of being like, we can do
felt
it
peace
again.
And you were like, yeah, for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there were some things that helped you that you wanted from people, or not wanted, but that people did for you that could have helped you. What were some of those things in case somebody out there is wondering how to help a friend, or if they don't even know what they need for themselves and so they don't even know how to tell somebody? Like, what were some of those things?
Yeah, I feel like for me, the main thing I think was actually just like support. And I think it felt really lonely to me, but I think that came with just like breastfeeding and learning all those things. So I think even just to have a friend like come over and just like be there with me and not even necessarily do anything, just be like support and like love me and remind me that like I'm doing a good job. That always helped me. But then also practical things, like for me, I would get really overwhelmed with like laundry or just like a mess and feeling like, I remember saying, I'll never be able to cook another meal in my life. Like I really thought that I was never going to be able to make like dinner for my family because I was like, how can I do this all? You know, it felt so overwhelming at the time. So like I've had friends like with our second offer, like laundry service, or like they'll bring us like a home cooked meal. So practical things like that are huge. And I feel like for me, like a lot of people like sent us flowers, which I love flowers. Like I think it's so sweet. Yeah. But it was so crazy because like I've never felt like I didn't want flowers in my life. But in this moment, I was like, I don't want any more flowers.
Because you have to keep them alive.
Yes. And then they die, and then it's like another mess. Like I have to throw them out. Like, so that actually kind of like
triggered you.
Yeah. So it was so strange. So like if any of my friends like have babies, like I won't send them flowers. But that's just, but I'm like, that's to each his own, you know?
Yeah.
So like you can totally send flowers, and I'm sure people would love it. But I would like personally would like something more practical, like a meal or someone to help me clean, or just like little things like laundry.
I love that. And even the note about just having a friend come over, if you're comfortable, like if you're doing the breastfeeding or not, formula fed, whatever. I feel like the feeding times for me were the lonely ones, especially because I breastfed in the beginning and I would just take her to the room, and so it was just me and her, which some of those moments were good because I just kind of like cried it out or whatever, or just sat in prayer and not even saying words, just been like, Jesus, you know, like that is a prayer in and of itself. Yeah. Jesus, period. And he's like, period. I'm here, honey.
Yes, I got you.
You know, but then it could be isolating too, because you're by yourself constantly. Yeah. And because you're feeding a lot in the beginning.
Right.
And so just having somebody sit there, because that helped me in the beginning. Was I did have friends that would just come over and not offer advice. Like I didn't want advice. Yeah. Like you were talking about with Josh, like, is like he wanted to be a fixer. Yeah. And Hunter was the same way. And then he got to the point where he was like, okay, this is not helping. Yeah. Let me just be.
Yeah, that's a really good one, especially for new moms. Like, don't give, I would say, like, even knowing, like, you know, I feel like having the 2 under 2 and like going through what I went through, I feel like I could offer advice, but a lot of the times, like, I don't want to. You know, I want, like, if someone asks, I'm like, ask me all the questions. Like, I will give you, like, my advice on whatever, but I don't want to seem, like, overbearing, because some people, you know, they don't even know yet. They don't know, and, like, the advice could be overwhelming. Like, you just never know.
Right.
So,
I didn't know what the heck I needed or wanted to get past that season. Right. Like, in it.
Yeah.
And then you're, like, slowly figuring out, like, okay. But then whenever people do, you're like, that was nice.
Yeah.
That felt good.
Right.
Or somebody cleaning your counters off. You're like,
thank you.
Thank you. I
That's what
liked
needed.
that.
Yes, I liked that. That was good.
Or Hunter being like, I've got her, like, you go take a shower. Like,
Yes.
oh, okay, I can go take a
like,
shower.
I'm allowed to take a shower still? I can do that?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I had to be so, like, even nap times, you know how they say sleep when your baby sleeps?
Oh my gosh.
Couldn't.
That's the worst advice.
It was because I literally just wanted to stare at her.
No.
Like,
that's the worst advice. And because you feel like if they are asleep, like, well, this is my only time to like take a shower or to make myself a coffee, like anything. And so I'm like,
to have like me time.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, do not give that advice.
Did that get better with the second baby? Like, since
yes.
I know you didn't walk through postpartum depression then.
Yeah.
But like, did any of those things, because, you know, they say all the like funny memes about like the first kid, you're over prepared, you're routine based, all this, and then second kid comes and it just gets a little more lax.
Definitely. We've been so much more just like flexible with her, like even just stuff like simple as like her schedule and like sleep. I was really like hyper focused on that with our first, and that I think really contributed. Like I was always reading stuff. Like I would go to Google and be like, my baby's 2 weeks old and this and that, and like what do I do?
Yeah.
And it's like that just was never good for me. Like if I could have not had my phone, I think I would have been better off. But yeah, this time around, you know, I think as a second time or third time, whatever mom, like you feel more confident because you've done it before and it's not as much of a shock. But yeah, we definitely have been like more laid back for sure.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like I'm already in that stage of like nursery. Oh, I don't know. If,
we'll figure
like
it out.
If, and
right.
then just like already the scheduling, and I breastfed with Ivy and I had this app on my phone and I was so like paranoid. I had to click the button right when she started feeding.
That is
and
exactly how
I just like watched the phone and they were like off by a few minutes. I'm Googling like babies only
did feed
less 2 minutes on this side.
Oh my gosh. I was the same exact way. Yeah. And I used the app a little bit like with Starly in the beginning with our second. And then I was like, this app is not good for me. And I actually would use it still. Like I used it with Rye for a long time to even track her sleep.
Okay.
And then I eventually was like, I'm deleting this off my phone.
Yeah.
Like I can't, like, so you find what works.
You figure it out. Yeah.
And I think with the second, it becomes easier because you're like, okay, that wasn't good last time. I now know that.
Yeah.
And like, what can I take and like not take from the first experience?
For sure.
Yeah.
How did that time like strengthen y'all's marriage? Like looking back now, because you said after, you're like, I'm so glad we went through that.
Yeah. I think learning each other. And I think that's what's so beautiful about marriage is you think like, oh, you get married, you know everything about this person, you're best friends, you're this, you're that, you know. That's what you think. But honestly, like we've learned so much more in our marriage about each other than our dating relationship. Like we just have continued to get closer and closer. And I think during that time, we really had to learn how do we support one another. And in the moment, I was like, I'm the one suffering. I'm the one that's walking through this. I am like in pain, like recovering, just had a child. So I was like, I need you to like give me everything basically. And in the moment, I didn't think it was like selfish. And I don't even think now that Josh would say it was, but I think that I had to learn too how to like support Josh in supporting me, if that makes sense. Because I had to give him grace and be like, he doesn't really know how to navigate like what I'm going through. Because I didn't even know.
Right.
And a lot of the times I didn't even know what I needed from him. And so it was like just little things as simple as like, sometimes I would be like, this is what I'm feeling, all this stuff. And Josh is such like a fixer and he wanted a solution. Like, of course, the only thing he wanted was for me to feel better. So he's like, how do we do it? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't think that there is like a direct fix. And I think he wanted like an instant fix.
Yeah.
Which of course, like if he was walking through something like that, what can we do like the fastest to make you feel better, you know? And so it was just like learning how maybe sometimes like I'm crying or I'm feeling emotional in this moment. I would tell him, I'm like, I just need a hug. Like, I don't want you to give me a solution right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that he is always trying to like make me feel better, of course, you know? But so just little things like that we would learn, like, I just need you to support me in this moment and kind of just be there and maybe just like listen to me and not really say anything, honestly.
Yeah. Right.
So like little things like that, we just learned each other more.
And that plays a role into now.
Yes.
It's like with other little things you've seen. And that's like shows communication too.
Yeah.
Because like having to learn, okay, he doesn't know really what I'm feeling, so I need to tell him.
Yeah.
Because I would do that too. And still, I'm not perfect. And like,
Right.
there's moments where I just expect Hunter to.
Yeah, I'm like, you should know that this is what I needed.
Exactly.
Like, what are you doing?
And then I just get an attitude. And then I'm like, poor guy.
Right.
Poor thing.
I know.
He deserves better.
I know. I'm so like that. Like if something upsets me and I'm like quiet around this, I'm like, why didn't you ask me what was wrong? And like it doesn't work like this.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's good that y'all learn the communication and all that. It really learning, like looking back, I feel like every year there's going to be, I feel like harder years of marriage just because it's life. But I feel like ultimately, like if you stay on the path that God has for you and you dig in and both put him first and constantly, which that in and of itself, we have to self-reflect a lot and reprioritize.
Oh, same. Us too.
But it'll help. Like we've learned, we can take everything we've gone through and learned and put it on a current situation or future situation, you know? Yeah. Because I know one day we're going to have teenagers.
I know. We talk about that all the time. Like, because I'm like, that's the hardest season, you know, of our marriage so far. And we've only been married for 4 years. So I'm like, we have to realize like, who knows what's going to happen, you know, like, but I think like you said, each struggle and like thing you go through is only strengthening you for like the next time that maybe you may go through something tough.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I can't, teenagers, I'm like, thank God that the Lord graces you for like the current season you're in.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't think I'm graced to be a teen parent yet. Because I don't know what to do with that information.
Prepare me, Lord, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Because even now we have toddlers and I'm just like last night we're like, how do we even like discipline it?
Yeah. No, because like, even that's hard.
Yeah.
Like every day is something new, like being parents, just learning, and they're learning every day too. I'm like, this is crazy.
I know.
What are we doing?
I know. And it makes me give so much grace to my parents when I was little. I'm like, they were just figuring it out themselves too.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, yeah. I want to talk about social media. So how long have y'all been doing social media?
So we started in 2017. So what is it? How many? I'm not good at math.
2024.
So is that
wild? It's been
7 years?
7 years.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. But I would say like over those 7 years, you know, when we first started, it was more just like a hobby and it was just something fun and we loved. We didn't ever think that it was going to like turn into our job. And then over the past, like, I would say like few years is when we started doing it like full time. But yeah, we started, we were just dating at the time. And I told Josh, I was like, we should start a YouTube channel. And it's so funny because I actually didn't know that you could even like be a vlogger or like have a YouTube channel as your job.
Oh, wow.
I didn't like watch YouTube growing up. I didn't know anything about it, to be honest. But I just was like, this would be fun. Like, let's like document our relationship. And so Josh was like, sure, yeah. And like, he kind of has a background. He did Vine and he did YouTube a little bit when he was younger, like nothing like what we're doing now. But so he was familiar. So he was like, if we're going to do it, like we should actually do it. And I was like, okay, yeah, like let's do it. So I had a camera that was actually just like for photos. But we ended up using that and we just like sat down and like recorded a video. And then eventually that led to, so we started doing TikTok like more recently. And then Instagram was there too. And then our podcast and stuff. So it kind of like has all developed over the years. But YouTube was like that's where we started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I first saw y'all on TikTok and I was like, they're so precious. And I could tell, honestly, like right away that y'all are also Christian.
Yeah.
Just because of I mean, you might have had something in your bio. I'm
yeah,
not sure.
We probably.
Yeah. That's how I think we do.
Know. Yeah.
But I don't know. Y'all are just so genuine and y'all give off just such a light.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that this would be your ministry? Like, is it weird to say? Because I feel like some people don't get it.
Yeah.
But like it truly, because we're not like preaching on there.
Right.
You know, but it is a different ministry in and of itself.
No, we never thought that this would be like our like life and our like ministry, like you said. But it's so cool now. And we're not on there preaching, but like some Christian influencers are. But I think it's cool because I think you can still like share Jesus and like they'll see the light and like the fruit on you and they'll, like you said, like you can just kind of see it.
Yeah.
And so we always hope that like people see Jesus through us. That's like our prayer.
Yeah.
Even if we're not, coming on there and like sharing necessarily like a scripture or like, like preaching. But no, we definitely give God like all the glory. We're like, this is like incredible that we get to do this. So we love that we're able to use our platform, for that. But yeah, I didn't think it could even be a job.
Right.
So I'm like, here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do y'all get hate for like publicizing your faith ever or things like that?
We do sometimes. but not too bad. We get, like, of course the hate comments are going to be there. And I feel like in the beginning I would see stuff and I'm like, that's so mean. Like, and now I don't read too much because I don't want to see the hate comments. I feel like it just helps me, but I feel like I am kind of like desensitized to it. And if I see stuff, I'm just like, these people, like, they may not even, it's like not even a real account. Like, they're just literally here to comment hateful things to people. Like, that's what they love. Like, they thrive off of that. And so I don't feel like it really affects me. But I also try not to really look at it.
Yeah, same. Yeah. It's like ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if I don't see it, I don't know it's there, because it never does me good when I do see it. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm desensitized to it. Yeah. Or just like numb to what the words they're saying.
Like, okay.
It's like I've heard that before. They're not even talking about me.
Yeah.
But if it's like a bad day, I'm like, the enemy really was trying to get to me today.
No, seriously. Yeah. And I feel like no matter what we do, like on social media, we were saying this, like, someone's always going to have something bad to say, no matter what you do. Like, I saw someone posted a TikTok. She was like doing something for the homeless or something, and everyone was like eating her up because she took a video of it. And like, I was like, you know what? Like, I can see why people maybe would say that, but then one of the top comments was like, this person's an influencer, and now I maybe saw this and I'm influenced to do something good. So it's like, why can't we just look at it like that? Like, why do we have to comment and be like, why would you record this? Like, just things like that. And then I just love that the top comment on it was actually like, no, like, she influences me to buy makeup, so why can't she influence me to go out and help and do something sweet for someone else,
No, because that's so true.
Yeah.
Because the way the world is now with social media being so just in our faces all the time, it's like, if we can be an influence to one person, even if it's through our silly videos, right, then like, great. At least it's not bad content.
Right. Like, if we could just make someone smile.
Right. Yes. Because what if somebody's talking about it? What if there's a mom going through postpartum depression and she watches a video and it can make her smile? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
The world is so sad how dark the world is now.
I know.
Yeah. But y'all are such lights. I love that. Like, on social media,
so
how you said y'all's prayer is that you hope people can see Jesus in you.
Yeah.
Literally, by y'all's fruits, I know that Jesus lives in you.
You're so sweet.
Yes. But y'all are just so precious. I'm so thankful you're here.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
Of course.
We're so happy to be here.
Yes. Okay. So to close out, what is like one thing that God has been teaching y'all lately?
I feel like we were actually just talking about this. I feel like both Josh and I are kind of in a similar, like, what we feel like the Lord is like teaching us in this season. And that is just to like be present where we're at. I feel like the past few years have moved really fast for us. We've moved a lot. We have 202. Things just seem to be happening so fast. And I feel like we're both, Josh more so, but me too, like, we're kind of like, we're looking into the future. We're planning and we're like dreamers. And so we're like, what's going to happen here and there? But sometimes then we feel like we miss the moment of just being present in today, and especially having kids that really like change that for us. And so I feel like in this season, yes, we're so busy. We have like 2 babies and it can be hard at times, but I've really just been feeling like the Lord is like, okay, this moment may be tough and it's going to test you, but like, just remember that one day you're going to look back and be like, you're going to miss like the mess. You're going to miss the diapers and like all the things. And so I feel like just to be present where we're at and not focus so much on the future.
Oh, I love that. That's so good and so relatable, because sister, I need to do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like a constant being like, okay, be still.
Yes. Like just for a second. Like, you don't have to be doing right all the time.
Yeah. That is good. I feel like a lot of people, that will resonate with a lot of people. But if y'all want to follow their podcast, it's the For Us podcast, and I will link their socials below, so y'all go check them out. They're the cutest little family. And but thank you again for being here.
Yes, thank you.
And y'all have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.